What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Core Conversations for Wednesday. We're back at it, and Misty, Jenna Zaffino, and I will be yapping it up. So thank you for joining us today, and we are going to have a good time. So Robin, what's going on? How are you? We're just getting going here, and Flowboy 3485, what's up? Good to be back. It's been interesting in the last little while. So yesterday was fun, just connecting with a bunch of people. We had Marianne, Tasha, and Michelle Sims join us in the chat. I was saying to my wife after too how it's just so life-giving just being in conversation and connection with people. So yes, it's all good. Robin, good to see you. Misty Lynn Coffin. I'm gonna bring you on right now, my love. So good to see you. Hey, Jamie, Carrie.
Hello.
Hello.
So good to see you.
Likewise. Like big air hugs for you. How's it going?
Same, back at you. It would be better if I had earrings in already, but you know, I'll catch up. Robin! Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. This is so amazing.
I know. I see Carrie and Jamie as well.
Nice. Oh, they're coming in. Oh, I'm so excited. It's been forever.
No. Have you been doing your thought flows too? I think I saw. No way.
Yeah, no. Life has come at us fast. So,
Yes.
you know, like flying anvils. So we've been off and it's terrible. We hate it.
Yeah. Flying anvils.
It's just been a lot. It's been a long season. 2022, set it on fire. You have outstayed your welcome. Peace out. Bring on fire.
Too funny. I remember like the movie Dodgeball where he's like throwing wrenches and he's like, if you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball.
Yeah. That's what the tail end of 2022 has been. Dodging wrenches. But, you know, who knows what we'll get to dodge next year. Sometimes it's better to deal with the devil you know, but I'm ready for a fresh new devil, thank you.
Okay. So how do you really feel about this year? Yeah.
I call it like I see it. Not anyone's benefit, but I try my best.
Yes. I know. Carrie, what's been going on?
Hey!
I know. I'm just curious. As I've been talking yesterday, I had Marianne came on and she was sharing, like Blaze Pilates, and shared how she changed spaces. She has a new space now. And it doesn't have the boxing component to it. It's more kind of like a little more high end and all these different things. So it kind of led to this really connected conversation about transitions and embracing stages of life and letting go. Like, it was just interesting how like I see a lot of parallels in where we're at in our stages. So we all grow together, right?
Yeah. It's it feels more fluxy this year than it has in past, you know, and probably because we're out of practice. Carrie. You know, the world is moving faster than it has over the past couple of years. And it's a very, very different,
Coach Robin.
got a different feel and a different flavor. But, you know, one of the things that I've been reflecting upon is, yeah, it's coming at us fast. And is it coming at us or is it dragging us? We really, really have to work to make sure that we don't end up in the same place or state that we were in before. I can't tell you how many people through these several years of conversations we've been having. Hi, Coach Robin. You know, how many people said, man, I was just so done with everything. It was such a slog. And then the pandemic happened and I got a moment to pause.
Yes.
I think we have to be aware of the idea of being the architect
Mm-hmm.
know, not the grunts in our own lives. We don't
Absolutely.
dragged along in our own experiences. And so, that takes a minute. It takes a little bit of planning and just reflection to make sure that we don't go down that slope again.
Architects, authors, I mean, we talked about the narrative and just writing that new narrative for us. That's I think that is really it. Instead of letting the story be written for us, we're now dictating what that story is going to look like, right?
Right. It's our story. And no boss, no client, no ham sandwich can write that for us. We have to either participate in its writing or just content with being, a cog in someone else's wheel.
Right. If
anyone wants to do that.
Hey, Blossom.
Awesome. And back at you. I hope you are having a restful holiday. You're always super busy.
Yes. And Kara, how are you? Good to see you. And a few people came in there too. Yeah, no, it's just interesting how people are interpreting that, right? Because it has been the ebb and flow, and like people really did enjoy the downtime they were forced to have with COVID. And then as it's coming back in, are we taking responsibility? Like Jenna's blog just really resonated with me, where she was talking about just taking responsibility for the different times and spaces and seasons of our life, or are we just letting it happen to us? And are we being responsible? The way she phrased it was being responsible for what we've learned.
Yeah. Well, right? And in school, we had the benefit of tests, and I use the term lightly. But there was a very clear, quantifiable measure of our progress.
Yes.
We have that in real life. And that in and of itself allows us to just kind of like tootle about and, oh, well, my life is living me. Kelly, yes. Oh my gosh. Hi, happy holiday.
I'm bringing Jenna in while you're saying
that. That whole idea of quantification or edification, we don't have that as adults. So it's really, really easy to just get dragged along by your face and not take the time to say, I own this, I don't own that. And then people end up in this place where they're like, oh, well, all of these bad things happen to me. Well, life doesn't happen to you. It shouldn't just happen to you. Right?
It feels like it happened to me this morning. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Well, there'll be micro episodes where this still happens to us.
Immediately, it feels like it happens. I'm not saying that it doesn't, because it does. But do we go back and reflect upon that? Do we go back and say, what did I contribute? And sometimes, listen, it happens to you. You're sitting on the road and somebody rear ends you, like, go. I didn't do anything to contribute to that. That happened to me. But if my career's not going where it's supposed to go, and I feel like my clients are beating me up, or I'm beating up my clients, or all these other things, I'm being pummeled by trolls, and I allow that to drag me into the hole. How do I show up for that, and how I feel about that, and how I interpret it, and how I allow that to affect how I step into my next day? That's what I mean.
Yeah. Hi, Jenna Zaffino.
Hi. I feel like I want to go back and watch because I'm missing a little context, but I always track with Misty. I have to tell you, how's this for the universe? I will give you, Misty, one guess what my Uber driver's name was this morning.
Your Uber driver's name was not Misty, was it?
Mm-mm-mm.
Okay.
Think
Karma.
music. Think
Lenny Kravitz.
That you love. Well, of course. I mean, let's just pause for Lenny Kravitz for a minute. Okay, sorry. It was
still here. Hello.
It's okay. You can pause for Lenny too. Lenny exists for all.
Yeah, he's universal. So.
It was Rufus, and you remember your Rufus? And I was like, hey, and he was lovely, but I've never had Rufus as a Uber driver before, and I normally don't take Ubers, but we've got multiple people and car issues and things like that, or car need issues. So I was like, of course it's Rufus, because Rufus Hessel. Anyhow, just a little aside. Nobody cares. We do. We're excited about it. It was kismet.
Unbelievable.
Right. I know.
Rufus.
It had to do with Misty. How are you guys?
Awesome.
Good.
It's been too long, huh?
Too long. I'm so glad I get to be here in this space with you, Jenna.
I know. Same. I look forward to it. I made it happen this morning against all odds.
So appreciated. So we were talking, just to give you context, one of the lines from your blog, which really did speak to me, was about claiming responsibility for the things that we've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share the context that you have in that blog? Because it just hit me in a different way, but like it just that sentence alone can just be inserted into anything, I think. Like,
sure. Yeah, it's a heavy lift for sure to claim that responsibility, because it is it's one of those things when we talk about work, whether it's work on yourself or work for others, it's one of those things that is going to require work when you claim the responsibility, and it's going to be messy and it's going to be imperfect and all of the things. And in the context of the blog, it was talking about recognizing the way that I had restricted myself from a food perspective, from a movement perspective, from a voice perspective, and just, like we talk about a lot in our conversations, it's just like that behaving well, and feeling like that was the only choice forward, because of a number of different things. Like, what does it mean to feed yourself on the other side? Does that mean whether it's food, does that mean your body would change and become more acceptable or less acceptable? Does that mean that that fear of success overall, or fear of happiness, which exists, like what does life look like? Breathe for the train, always. What does life look like if I'm not in this very controlled way of living? What if the rules aren't completely defined, and what if I start doing things, and what if they don't work is also another thing. So the line that I wrote in claiming the responsibility really had more to do with being willing to roll with all of it that comes along, and also recognizing that it's going to need support, because I think sometimes we see these really idyllic stories where I was here and then I got there. Ta-da!
Eat, pray, love. That's all.
Yeah, and it's like, well, what happened in the in-between? What happened when I don't know, what happened when your body did change? What happened when you were looked at differently? What happened where you were seen as a threat? What happened when your best intentions were misunderstood? Mm-hmm. And I think we just, there's a trend at present surrounding categorizing somebody as either right or wrong or good or bad. And the condition of being human is messing it up along the way. And I'm not saying that, everyone is righteous in their actions whatsoever, but I think when we're talking about our personal journeys, there's this missing piece of some of the stories we tell, which is where we messed it up, and how we claimed responsibility in that moment of messing it up, or how we, yesterday I was teaching a class, and I commented about like focusing on the spine versus the belly. So because the spine indicates like mobility and health, and the belly is really like a construct of the fitness toxic diet culture, which perhaps can be met by some DNA, but mostly, especially for people who have been through any level of anything, is going to be challenging it's not realistic. And I feel like I was on the right track with that comment, but it was also missing some other some other lenses. It was missing like the lens of disabled folks. It was missing the lens of all the different ways that we move. It was missing the lens of like people who have issues with their spine that may or may not feel healthy. Like there's just, it's a very, very detailed and challenging, you know, it's what am I looking for? It's unclear. So even in this space of trying to take the focus away from things that don't help us grow, I didn't get it all the way right. And in the moment I was like, I want to hide. I want to take this class down. Because I know somebody out there someplace is going to go, you didn't get that right. And I think but the thing is
part
is
of
that,
the fear. Don't you feel like that in and of itself is part of that paralyzing fear? Like you don't want to put anything out there for the moment that you miss one corner of that thing you're trying to put out there.
Totally.
100%. You know, you're actually
sorry to jump in there,
waiting for that person to come out with their pitchfork and, you know, their but, you know, at the same time, grace and common sense have got to abound, right? Like, you're trying to say something that is true and very, very important. And at the end of the day, somebody needs to hear it, I'm sure. But we're so worried about the one person that's going to pick it apart that we keep the goodness. We keep from sharing it. We hold in, and that gives us just as much stress as saying the wrong thing. Like you have to have grace and common sense and realize that at every time and every measure, we are not going to get it for everybody.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I think did you see my YouTube haters post recently?
I was going to comment on it, but I was in the car. I didn't get a chance. But I was like...
So for those tuning in, the one that stung the most was, yo, bro, who brought their grandma on YouTube?
Really?
I was like...
Grandmas love it.
Yes, but you know that was like, whether it was a bot or a troll or whatever, like, you know, they all came in rapid succession, so I knew it wasn't 100% like a person, but maybe it was. I don't know. I just sat there and that, you know, right now, full transparency, as a woman of a certain age who turns out will continue to age, it is very, I'm aware that the shelf life of whatever the perception is of this fitness youth idyllic paradigm is gone, you know, because for all the reasons. But there lives inside of me a fear of being called old. So I realize, and I'm being vulnerable as we are, I often lead with my age so that I can get ahead of.
You could detonate that bomb before someone
I'm going to get there
tosses
before
a grenade.
You will. I'm super good at being like I can handle hurting myself. It's harder when other people hurt. So when I read that, the sting and like the tears that came up were real. And I was just like, shit, this is what I've been afraid of. I need to stop. And I was like, I need to stop. I don't know what it is that I'm going to do, but this is too much. And it paralyzed me for a second. And then I thought, okay, hold on, let's expand. What must it be like to be in a space where you're sitting at a computer and you're typing in those words without thought for the person on the other end who's receiving it? And I thought, okay, I know that the people who enjoy my work are often those who can't find a space for their work or their body movement in like general, you know, running like the full vein of fitness. I mean, thank you. So I thought, am I going to let this sad person who, like, I can see the humor in the comment, right? But am I going to let this sad person rob those people from getting something that they need? No, and that's my responsibility, is to deal with it in that moment. So I chose humor and to leverage it into an Instagram post, which performed quite well. So thank you, haters.
Haters getting paid.
Yeah.
Dude, those people, I will always appreciate more somebody that will reach out to directly and say to me, you know what, Misty? You're an asshole for whatever reason. I don't like what you do, and here's why. I don't like the way you teach, or, the workshop you taught was crap, or whatever it was. Because even though I might not agree with them, I can get something out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, the grandma, first of all, I am loving getting older. I feel for anybody that's struggling with it, but I feel like when I was younger, I had so many battles with my body and my look and my self-esteem, and not to say that they're better or they're gone, but now at least I can blame it on getting older. So, but
so scapegoating is the tactic that we're using for the day. Okay.
My therapist will work it out eventually.
Yeah.
But today, this is something that we're all going to do.
Yep.
If you think that you have massive keyboard balls, you're showing somebody something by putting those people, slapping those balls down. You're not doing anything. You're certainly not doing anything for me, and you look like an idiot. So at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, that's right, get me clicks. You win, Jenna.
Mm.
One of the interesting pieces about it too was that whether they were bots or trolls, all of the comments that came through, the handles were names that were traditionally applied to men. So I think that, like, one of these spaces of responsibility as a woman who is continually getting older is to take responsibility for the quality and the way in which you live your life and the way in which you chase or achieve joy for yourself, because
yes.
We are seeing more kind of marketing of joy turning towards the woman who's in mid-40s and above. And I don't know if you saw that. There's I think it was New York Times or New York Magazine article about the gold rush of menopause. And so how it's, and so, like, we're going to see over the next year plus, just like all the products focused on middle-aged women. But the thing about joy is, I think that it is in some cases offensive when a woman who formerly in history should have been, put out to pasture around this age is still actively seeking joy, is still enjoying her body, is doing things that are ridiculous, is fighting against mental health issues that come from rapid hormonal changes and in general, So I think there's a lot to be said for understanding that your focus and your efforts towards continually claiming that joy are going to rock some people's worlds, and their responses to it will not be favorable. And that perspective helps a little bit. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of rocks. Rocking some world with rocks, stones, whatever, shaking the tree. I think that there are good ways to disrupt. And if you're disrupting the paradigm of, well, dudes say that you are 39 and a half, so go sit in your corner and start knitting. First of all, I know a lot of people that knit and they're good at it and they love it. And some of them are young and some of them are old. And what's that matter? But two, and more importantly, no dude, no marketing director, whatever, is ever going to define me.
Right.
or
Right.
us know us. They don't know us.
Mm-mm.
And on top of it, we're the lost generation, right? We're the Xers.
Yeah.
They haven't gotten to know us. They don't know anything about us. And we're getting to the place where we get to take over. So how we define ourselves, Dave, how we, take the scene is fully defined by us because they don't know who we are.
Right. I think about that a lot in Pilates. Like sometimes I wonder if any of the leaders in our industry expected us to grow up.
No. I mean,
right?
I'm going to say, Martin, I'm sorry. I will let you talk at some point today.
I know we will. This is what happens, Martin. We knew fully. Get the two of us on.
I do have a point to throw in there at some point, but I wrote it down so it doesn't get lost. We'll proceed. Yes.
Crap, what was I saying? It was really good too.
We didn't expect us to grow
didn't
up.
expect us to grow up.
I think that the people that were at the top, the pinnacle of the industry, just fully expected to stay there. They were never going to grow old. They were never going to die. Maybe they were like the lost boys of Pilates. I don't know what it is. But we were all just supposed to stay in our little huts, and you're in this hut and you're in that hut. Maybe you come out of the hut and you get a ladder barrel and you get a spine corrector and we all make it work. But at the end of the day, they were still going to dictate who got to be the name, the face, the this, the that.
Because their pedestal was made out of marble, and marble does not age.
Yeah, but have you ever gotten marble wet? Like all these people that are putting this fancy marble in their bathroom, like they're dumb, not wet, hot, wet. You're curling iron on your marble. You're leaving a stain. Marble is not that super fabulous in the end.
No, but they think that it never ages, never changes. It's not porous. Nothing can change it. And
well, it's just wrong.
It's just wrong. So here's the point I was going to make earlier, and this is going to maybe it's just the male perspective from the outside looking in, but as we find expression, find joy, find ourselves, find and take responsibility for what we learn, and we do these things, there are people who are still stuck who want to pull us back into that place of stuckness instead of celebrating the joy with you as you move and progress.
Yeah.
It's more comfortable for them to throw those daggers and pull you back in than to celebrate your movement and then to ask how you got to that place and to enjoy that as well, right? So from the outside looking in to some of my female friends who are giving the self-expression, I also see others who want to stay stuck and keep and find comfort in that stuckness.
Yeah. I didn't hear you, Misty.
I said it's the devil you know.
Yes.
Sometimes if I can say that I'm stuck and it's the world, it's society, it's the whales, it's the stuff in my food, it's the climate, all of these things that are keeping me restricted, then I don't have to own the fact that I'm eating crappy food, I'm staying up all night watching Netflix, I'm not living my life is living me.
My marriage is miserable, my kids are unruly, like they don't want to celebrate the person who's kind of looks like they're sort of figuring it out, turning the corner.
Oh, nobody wants to get involved with the mess. I mean, it's so very clear from just like social media in general, and I know this is a tired conversation, but you look at people who are perpetuating the perfect business, perfect life, and they check the box of saying like, oh, I had a problem here or there, and so they're also authentic and all of this. But I know that in the spaces we've lost so many people over the past few years, and we'll continue to lose people through self-harm and suicide. And we hear these things like, check on your strong friends or check on this. And I don't know if you all have seen some of the posts that have come up. It's been like, no, like you have to go into checking on people with a sense of responsibility and a sense of like commitment to actually providing care. It's not a box to check. So when we're looking at like people who are getting unstuck, you know what it's like to have super glue on your fingers. You know what it's like to have gone through mud or whatever. It is not a clean sweep where you're stuck one day and you're unstuck the next. It is lots and lots of sloughing and painful release and, you know, getting rid of it and replacing it with something that's a better way of thinking or being or behaving, and recognizing that you're defaulting back to your old ways of being because they are comfortable, and yet you know that they're not comfortable for the future, and you're rolling with all of this. And just like people wanted help with a one-off reach out, they don't, we're not great at being willing to get into some muddiness with people and really stay with them and maybe get a little sticky ourselves in the process. That's the thing of it. And I think that, you know, I don't know why we're still buying into the get rich, get popular, get successful paradigm, because anybody who's been any place knows that within every peak that you reach in your career or in your life, there are a lot of valleys that happened in the middle of getting you there. And sometimes they're financial, and sometimes they're confidence, and sometimes it's insecurities, and sometimes it's conflict with others, and sometimes it's mistake making and health and all of those things. And I feel like, I don't think that our sharing as professionals always has to be like the vulnerability, trauma bonding situation. But I do feel like there's a need in the middle to just be okay with like saying, I don't like Pilates today. You know, like I have a couple people I can call up and be like, so it hurt me today and I'm not going back for another week. And they're like, yeah, let's talk about the other things that you have available to you. And that doesn't mean that like, you know, I'm betraying a religion or something. It just means that I'm paying attention to the needs of my own body. You know,
that from a teaching perspective too, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Look in those crazy toxic from hell Pilates forms out there. You know, come on and say, oh, I had this experience with my client. The client did this and this, and I just wanted to scream, and I was just so frustrated. And has anyone had a day like that?
Yeah.
And they're just seeking a little bit of humanity from people that can commiserate.
Yeah.
But a lot of what they get is, you need to be happy. Mm-hmm. You chose the career where you can walk around in yoga pants all day and boss people around and tell people what to do. And you might change somebody's life or you might not, but whatever. And how dare you? And, you know, this is why I don't go on to those because it's so stupid.
Yep.
Well, this leads us into a bigger conversation. We're going to touch all of the things. We're going to touch feminism, aging, menopause, claiming responsibility for your life. And now we've waded into the realm of abusive power dynamics and thought eliminating, what do they call it? Thought eliminating cliches, thought obstructing cliches. So in the world of abusive power dynamics, which also includes cults, we have this element that is often used within a group think situation, which is, I think I'm getting it right, it's like a thought eliminating or thought limiting cliche, which is something that we all say. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it stunts the outside expanded thought of another person who threatens the whole, the belief system of the whole.
The it is what it is kind of comment?
That it's also, you chose this profession and it's an honor to work with other bodies.
Gotcha.
So, you know, the profession comes first, the human comes second. If you are not receiving benefits, then you're not working hard enough. You're not doing the work well enough. You're not committed enough. If you can't perform the advanced work, you're not a real Pilates teacher. All of these like really stingy, I don't mean any of this. Anybody just tuning in. I just saw the numbers go, fuck. These are examples.
These are quotes. These are just quotes.
Yeah, just quotes. All
exactly.
But these are things that we've heard in some way, shape, or form or another that are meant to limit the experience of the person who's asking a question. In an environment where question asking is not fostered and welcomed, that is indicative of an environment that has an abusive power dynamic where they at the top hold all of the power, and you need to go through a gauntlet of behavior shifts and changes that focus more on the power than on you as an individual. And therefore, if you get there, you might get close to the top. You'll never get to the top, ever, but you'll get right here maybe, and you'll be under complete coercion of the norms of the organization. Now, I'm not saying that the entire industry, every organization is like this, but in studying this aspect, in understanding the type of responsibility I want to take for the programs that I run and the way I want to be in the world, it has been a hard and very troublesome look at the way in which leaders in the fitness industry at large, not just Pilates, take these paradigms that they often have learned from others who have gone before them, but have chosen to adopt and not change.
Yes.
And then they disseminate them down to those below as a norm, when really what it is a control mechanism.
And they wonder why everyone else isn't subscribing to it the exact same way they did.
Right.
I worked for a vet one time. This is my dad's favorite story in the world. And there was a vet in the practice that was very abusive to the staff. And all of us were female. We went to the owner of the practice and we said, listen, we can't deal with it anymore. We don't deserve to get yelled at as we're trying to help these animals. And so we had this meeting, and this guy's an old Chicago guy, and he was like, I'm going to call him Dr. Smith. And he goes, Dr. Smith, you know, when one person calls you a horse, whatever. But when 5 people call you a horse, it's probably time to get a saddle. And that is the thing with all of these little organizations. Like, why isn't everybody doing it the way we are? We have the best way. Everyone else is wrong. Go buy the saddle, people. It's time to expand and see how you can integrate with others in the world. The exclusivity is not helping anything that we say we want to help. It's actually hindering accessibility for people at large to enjoy your work. If it's even for people at large, if it's for a small sector of folks, then I guess you can live in that luxury world of whatever, but don't have the conversation out one side of your mouth that says Pilates is for everybody, and then say, but only if you can do these 6 exercises. You know?
Right. And listen, if you want to live, I'm reinforcing that point, in that luxury world, if you want to be the person that says, oh, I took Tracy Anderson's class and I love it and whatever. And I use her as an example because, well, I have a lot of issues with her fitness, but I also really hate her marketing. I think it's just caustic and disgusting for a lot of reasons. If that's who you want to be in this business and in your life, then nobody is saying don't do it. But don't expect others to want to come around and beat that drum or ride that horse or whatever we're doing here with you, because a lot of us have been harmed by that. First of all, a lot of us really want to make sure that does not continue to be the standard
right.
of what we do here. And there are those that are perhaps a generation beyond us in age who would say, well, that's just what it is. Mm-hmm. And I would say, no, that's not. That's what you've chosen to see it as. That's what you want it to be.
Yes, that's just what it is for you.
For you. And, you know, you have followers. You have people that are willing to put people down in your image or to live up to your image. But the rest of us don't want that. We get enough of that in the real world. Pilates land, for me anyway, isn't going to be that. Because I have a say.
Well, I think that's the big thing, right? Like, what I'd like to see happen in the next 5 to 10 years is that we start having more space for the conversations to get bigger and wider about what Pilates is for each person. I remember the first time I interviewed James, he told a story about a client saying, looking at another client session, and this client had some spinal issues and was engaged in very gentle session, and the other client who came in wanted something real physical. And she said, well, we're not going to do that, are we? Afraid that she wasn't going to get her workout in. And James kind of responded to her and he said, that's really interesting that you think that your Pilates would look like her Pilates. And that's always stuck with me in that sense of like, yeah, the way that I've evolved my teaching has been so sticky, and every perfectionist bone in my body wants to go back to defined ways of talking about movement and rules and regulations and ways of meeting the measure. But I've just let every single aspect of that go to infuse more permissive language, more dialogue, more storytelling within my sessions, and mostly an overarching element of trust. Meaning that I trust that the person in the room is going to take care of their body, and maybe they just have never had an invitation to do that for themselves. And so I think that, again, I've said this a couple times, and I'm only referencing that because it keeps coming up as a theme that I'm interested in hearing about you. So when I talk to somebody and I ask them about their fitness routine or their workout regime or something that they're really into, and they lead their answer with a guru, a training system, a piece of equipment, or a trend of some sort. When they say I'm into Tae Bo, or I do Tracy Anderson, or I love the Peloton, or what, I don't see that that's wrong. But the gap that I see is that they haven't, why are they not leading like, well, I enjoy the way my body feels when I ride on a spin bike, or I enjoy watching a workout commercial where there's a duck that walks through the commercial for no apparent reason. You know, or I enjoy, my body responds well to, I know I need this. That's the kind of community and culture that I really want to help influence in the next decade of my teaching. I want to hear about what you need. And how much more easy is it for us to do our job, and how much more interesting is our job when people come in and say, I don't know what it is, I don't know the exercises, but I know that I'm feeling really heavy and low, and I just want to feel the opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly.
We know all this stuff, you know?
It's so interesting too, Jenna, because I feel like I'm reporting back from the real world a little bit, like having this like city council thing and just being in these different rooms now where I'm people know me from the Pilates world, especially even within the city, because they brought me into leadership, circles to do Pilates for the leadership team and all those different things. So now, as much as I'm Counselor Reed, they're also like, well, tell me about that Pilates thing. I really need to do Pilates because I'm sitting at my desk. And it's funny how the conversations that we have here about the things you just talked about, Jenna, does translate to the real world when we get out of our teacher circles and our hierarchy and our elitism of the work that we do, to people who are just trying to feel better, look better in their skin, get away from back pain, look better to go on the beach. Even the superficial stuff that we feel is so toxic, when people say it from a pure place, you're like, yeah, no, I think this movement stuff can do something for you. Let's explore what that looks like. How did you feel when you were at your happiest place? How do you feel when you were at your best place? And what was going on in your world? And start asking those different questions, and it leads you down a path where it's like, okay, so there's a Pilates pieces that could work. There's some yoga pieces that might work. There's some strength pieces that might work. You just need to move. Let's get you just moving. And then wherever that leads us, we can go. That's what it sounds like almost in the real world when we get out of us trying to appease the rest of the industry with the way that we present what we do.
I think it comes back to that element of tribalism. You know, we want to be associated with things, with groups, with trends, with fads, whatever it is. Yep. And so therefore, we come to things, and I feel like societally, especially right now, let me rewind. I feel like there used to be a time where stories were valued and important, and people talked about things from a place of experience and commitment and buy-in and love, or displeasure, whatever it is. But we got away from that people perspective. We got away from stories. We forgot about how that moved me, what that brought to me, why.
Yes.
Got into the product-centered, marketing-centered, oh, well, I do this because 9 out of 10 doctors agree that, fill in the blank. And you know, that, what does that do? It creates enthusiasm, but not about people, about stuff, about the of what the stuff provides.
Yes.
And who does that benefit? It certainly doesn't benefit the people. So that's why I think these conversations are super powerful, because we have brought people back to the idea, at least I think we've encouraged people to go into the feel of it. How does it feel? How does it resonate? Even if I hear something from somebody that I might not appreciate, I have to tap into that and what that does to me on a visceral level, how my brain cells either hum or scream at it. And then I have to ask myself why. That requires a level of checking in that allows me to be a human. We get back to humanity in all of the things that we do. Look at our society. It's ablaze. That it's because we have gotten away from being humans, and all we are is just construct. So that really spoke to me. I'm done now.
Okay. Well, because Jenna's comment about stewardship is the thing that makes me think about this too, is because for that moment that someone pays money and has engaged in a session with me, I am, for this small moment, an authority in their lives. Not the authority. I still feel like I'm coming alongside them in their journey, but I still have a place where I can give them permission to feel.
Yeah.
And I have to invite them into that place where they can feel. And it's like, and it's the thing, because I'm trying to give them back that authority and give them back that ownership of themselves. But for a moment, we have to kind of rein that in to give it back to them.
I wanna kind of dance with what you just said, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think we're all feeling. And I think we are all feeling maybe way more than we've ever felt before, based on current events. And I believe that it is not that we need another person's permission to feel per se, but we need to be convinced. We need to believe that whatever we feel will be held in a safe way by the person who's in a leadership position. We need to feel that if debate or conflict arises, that we can do that in a respectful way, and a way that focuses on an outcome that might be beneficial instead of completely detrimental. So I just think back on my early years of teaching and have this very distinct memory of carrying all my clients home on my shoulders with me, and then going to the internet or looking up frozen shoulder. What are people doing? What are the PTs doing? Talking to different people, looking up like what is a meditation? What's the mudra for frozen shoulder? Like, what the heck can I find to help this client? And then bring in everything back and just like fire hose, like feel that healing and fix it, and I'll be your guru, and all of the things that were, that I experienced in different ways, shape or form as I grew up. And what I recognize is that if I can open the space to ask the right sorts of questions and then sit back, people already, they know how to emote. They just will not do it in a space where the expectations are other than their best interest at hand. That doesn't mean feely, touchy, you are enough all 60 minutes of the session. You're so enough. You're more enough than ever. Like, it's not that piece. I see this as challenging for you. What do you think would make it a better experience? Or often, like, I have one client that I'm working with, and I said, yesterday I said, this may come as a surprise, but you're really an intuitive mover, meaning you know what to do and you know where it comes. And sometimes I think my cues get in the way of you. And she said, sometimes I think you're right. And often I think I just need to trust myself more.
Huge.
Yep.
Period. Let that be the theme of the session. I don't have to say another word about it. What do you think comes next? How can you make this one feel better? What happens if you press through your back a little bit more? What happens if you reach through your heel? Do you like it? Do you not like it? You like the way that feels? Let's do it more. Well, it's hard, but I think it's the right thing. Let's go. So I think that I just, when I hear language surrounding permission, I always want to like unpack it a little bit.
Yes.
And think deeper about like, what does that look like in a grounded engagement between two people? What does it look like in a engagement where one person is standing and everybody else is laying down, in submission, like whether it's consented submission, but that's often like a mat class situation. And, what are the ways in which it can be misconstrued by by teachers, and I'm thinking of mentorship, like those who are clamoring just to get like one step ahead in their confidence, or one step, because we've all been there where it's like, in today's class, I am going to give you permission to feel your feelings on 3. It's just like, I'm always like, no, like all those yoga sires who are like, in the room, and I'm like, nope, sorry, I don't know you. You're not, like, there's no sigh coming from this body. I'll be fine doing the down doggy thing in the corner and off of the top. But yeah, so that's my thought.
Feelings important because, again, living in this life where we are guarded and we're looking out for trolls and all of the other things that may be happening. People have judged us for what we're wearing and what we're doing and what we're looking at. And, I think we visit this idea of feeling and giving ourselves permission to feel from a more narrow, intentional, focused perspective. But feelings are feelings. Feelings happen. Like you'd said earlier that people feel. Yes, people do feel, but if you've kept yourself from feeling, from allowing yourself to express feeling and what that feels like physically and how that translates, how that even affects the way we hear things, then, it's just such a dance.
It is, absolutely.
And we as teachers need to respect that, but we need to respect it from our own perspective first. We need to understand how that translates in ourselves and how we bring that into the room first. Because if we don't do that, are we creating a space safe enough for people to feel? I'm giving you permission to feel how you feel. Okay, well, you've just told me that I have to feel something. So you have to then tell me what that is, because you've put yourself in the position of authority. Yeah. So are we really allowing them to feel, or are we really just keeping them in their same paradigm, but zhuzhing it a little, fluffing it, and adding some glitter?
Are you talking like we got to clean up our own side of the street first?
1,000%.
Yeah.
Because we all come into this, whether you came in from dance or from fitness or from accounting, we all come into this with the structure that we were so used to functioning in.
Yes.
Hard to break an old habit. So, we have to clean up what's happening in here before we can go out and say, and now you do it better, because that's still pokey. That's still us telling you.
super gray, right? Because like there's so many,
Super.
well, it is, you know, I'm having like a rock and sock and robot battle in my own head. Whereas like in one vein of that, which I agree with you, Misty, it's in one vein, it's like, well, does that mean, I'm just like throwing things out there. Does that mean that if I don't have my stuff cleaned up, like if I'm dealing with mental health issues, does that mean that I should not be teaching Pilates? And I think that's not the suggestion. It's more along the lines of, it isn't looking for perfection in your own being prior to influencing others. It's understanding that you deserve the permission and the support as well as that you offer your students.
Thank you, Mr. Phils.
Hello, bye. We have to catch up. Yeah, that's a big part of it. Way, and this may be triggering, so I apologize in advance to anybody that may be triggered by it. But it's like when somebody has a raging eating disorder is giving diet advice.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it. You know, if I haven't addressed my issues regarding movement and regarding how I am hyper perfectionistic in my own personal movement, I'm not going to be able to then look at the people that I'm working with, teaching, training, and say, oh, okay, yeah, just kind of let it all hang out. I'm not going to be able to do that. I might say it, but it's not going to translate. It's not going to translate my my demeanor isn't going to be, my voice is going to change, all of these things, because I haven't come to the place of being able to let that go of myself.
Yes.
I feel like though, okay, like not to bring it back around to this horrible, but we just lost somebody who put on the performance of a lifetime where we all believed that Twitch was joy incarnate, and yet he wasn't. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. Like there is definitely a point at which you're looking at somebody and you're like, there's no way you're eating 9 servings of protein a day. Something's off about this, right? Like there is a caloric deficit happening someplace, and I don't feel the authenticity. But there's in our world where we're in the world of betterment and self-improvement, whether it's for health purposes or for aesthetic purposes, we have a tendency and a predisposition to put on the face of perfection and the face of achievement and the face of health and the face of beauty and the face of strength and the face of success and all of these things. And we can be real good. The chameleon aspect is strong. We become performers. And I think that you bring up this really important untouched subject, because what happens when you pull the card out of disordered eating or mental health issues or trauma and struggle, when there's not a solution attached to it, right? When we're not in a continuing education course that's going to tell you how to fix those things, when we pull the card out of those aspects and we say, let's have a conversation about what it means to be a teacher who is putting on their best face, but in the background they're struggling and suffering. Let's have a conversation about the high incidence of judgment and shame that's imparted specifically in the Pilates industry, and how it paralyzes a good deal of us, myself included, to share things like an infertility journey or a woman's health journey. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it out in the open. Let's try to create safety for this. When you pull that card out, we're going to recognize that the foundation is not strong enough from an industry perspective to hold up that conversation. And
sorry,
I think
Jenna,
you're
right in the middle of such a strong point, but I'd hate for us to get cut off. Can we jump out and come back in for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Sure. Are we get caught up in an hour?
Yeah.
Instagram. Come on.
Right.
You guys come back.
I'll be right back.
Right.
Okay. See you guys. Hold on a second.
We are back. Gotta finish Jenna's thought, but I hate for us to get cut off. So we're coming back for part 2 with Miss Lynn Cawthon and Jenna Zaffino.
Hey.
Where was I?
You were just talking about that. Oh, there's Misty right there. 1 second. Hi.
Fancy meeting you here.
So I think to just sum up the last piece, it's in taking it back to the beginning of claiming responsibility.
Yeah.
I think if the ask universally is for teachers and instructors to show up with some level of effort into cleaning up their own side of the street, taking care of their needs and speaking from an authentic place, then we also have to put an equal ask on the community to support that sort of dialogue.
Absolutely.
Forward. Yeah,
100%.
And I don't feel it. I mean, in small sectors, I do, and in individual relationships, I do. But the problem is, anytime there's an issue that needs to be approached from a human perspective, it turns into a goddamn teacher training or continuing education forum or something that has an ulterior motive or an alternative benefit.
Or a mentoring program, a 6-week sign up. And
yeah. I mean, we both run the mentoring program, so I'm not going to, but believe me, I say, I know us and I know what we're doing in those spaces. And, while there's compensation for time and energy that goes into putting together a carefully crafted program, it's also, I think that for me, it comes down to, if I'm going to scroll on social media, I will almost always see more encouraging comments about the way somebody looks in a post than I will about the way somebody is rolling through something. And I think it's because it's hard to do it in a public forum, so maybe the bigger and more effective ask is to look at the people who are in your immediate vicinity, and if you have that capacity with your teachers, how can I support you? What do you think would be helpful at this phase in your life right now? Is there anything you feel like you need to process out loud with an ear that can listen and hear?
Sure. I'm gonna read Better Breathing's comment. It can be such a solidarity work. The work hard to actually quote unquote feel support when your foundation is unstable. Yeah.
And how it's considered a level of judgment that we endure just being here. Of course it feels unstable. And, you used to say all the time, I hung out in my little Pilates backwater in Pittsburgh and was perfectly content to be here because it was safer than out there and being ripped to shreds because I am not wearing this season's Lululemon. But, damn it, it's the wrong color. But, the only way that changes, and it's hard to be out there and be the face, right? But the only way that changes is to be out there. And unfortunately, that's getting the body checks and the force objects over the head, so to speak, that is this social media world. It's gross. Yeah. But I do think it's getting better in some ways because of talks like this that have been happening. There are a lot of people who have said, oh man, I want to be a part of this change. I want to have these conversations. And then they never do a damn thing. But there are other people who are out here having conversations and working to change their communities. It starts from the bottom up because the top down isn't working. And that's what we have to do.
Lead from the middle, right? Like that's one of the lines we've been using forever.
Yeah. I feel like when we remove, there is this kind of I don't know whether it's spoken or unspoken. I think it's both, but there's this fame aspect that somehow getting well known or lots of followers or lots of, being a headliner at a continuing education conference or like that fame aspect is one of those things that everybody is working to achieve. And I think that like, if we were to remove that being well known or follower situation from the efforts that we engage into from a leadership standpoint, like you're saying, lead from the middle, then I think we have much more effective communication happening. Because while I might have more experience in certain areas or might have a little more expertise based on that experience, I'm never coming to the table in a DM acting like I know more than another teacher per se. Do you know what I mean? Like, or that like they have to be like me or something. I feel like I'm getting a little bit confused in my own verbiage, but it's just like, let's not try to be so famous. Let's not try to be let's take that one off the table. And because it really doesn't have anything to do with change.
But that's tricky, Jenna. And here's
platform. Yeah.
I that when somebody's achieved a level of success that you have, and you may not see it this way, and knowing you as I do, I know that this is not the space you live in, so please don't take it that way. But people who are new to the business, or they've been in the business for a long time, they want to change with their position in it, how they see themselves in it, they're going to take a look at you, who has been in for a long time, has 11 kabillion followers and such a polished presentation. And they're going to say, that is rich of somebody like Jenna, who is up here to say me, who is down here over the river through the woods, still at grandma's house.
Yeah.
So how then would you suggest to that person who wants to grow because they feel like they have something to say, how would you say to them, don't fall into that fame aspect? Because in Pilates land, people would look at you and say you're famous.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's weird because
it's the most repulsive thing in the world to you, Jenna.
Look, I'm a former dancer. The idea of being on stage is very attractive to me. I'm not going to lie about that. And I enjoy the content that I produce, but there's so much struggle in not defaulting into what I know would skyrocket the platform I have into oblivion. And I've seen it happen. Like if I dip my toes in the waters of trends or things like that, like there's a onboarding of lots of people and then they immediately leave because they're not there for the core message. So one place that I spill my guts, it still is the podcast formerly known as Pilates Unfiltered, is Jay-Z Unfiltered. And I do it imperfectly and I do it without edits. And I tell the truth of the stories that I've worked through so that people can find a long form. Because I'm not going to try to, it's very easy to fit a thought seed into a minute. It's real hard to fit my life story into a minute. And so I think if we're talking about like presentation from a marketing standpoint, and by the way, I appreciate everything you say, Missy, and you know that I'm it's not so much that I'm repulsed by it, it's just that I don't believe it, which is something I'm working on every single day. So I think that when it comes down to the messaging that I put out there and the polishing, etc., I've worked for a very long time and spent a lot of money. I'm not going to lie, not all warranted, but I've spent a lot of money on refining the impact that I want to have in this space. Mm-hmm. And that comes down to crafting messages and posts and deciding what's in alignment and what's not in alignment. And I think beyond any visibility that I may have, and beyond any accolades that I may have achieved, the one thing that's a client said to me this year is that you're one of the only ones who hasn't changed. You've been consistent from the get-go. And so when it comes down to that consistency, it's a high compliment. And it's one that I claim responsibility for.
Yes.
Because to pivot in a world that wants you to change every 5 seconds is very attractive. And it's, you can buy a course for that in many cases, but you really can't buy a course to figure out your own authenticity. You have to explore yourself. You have to look at the things that are important to you and the things that you can really help along the way. You have to make choices. You can't be everything to every single body or organization. You have to be, I think, more in your life than on your screen, which is hard running a digital company. But I think that what I would like to do more of, and what is tricky for me, is I would like to share more of the off-screen happenings that come in the form of debates and conversations, holding strong boundaries, advocating for people. But you know what? Like, I have a really hard time leveraging any of those things that I do in my real life for a follower, a popularity. Like, I'd like to hope that the work that I do at some point will shine through as authentic, and that I'll be able to promote it in a way that doesn't lift me up, but lift them up.
Thanks, Shanti.
Lift people. Thanks, Shanti.
Well, the way we do Pilates is the way we do life, quote unquote, right? So, I mean, if there's a sense of, and we're defining how we do Pilates right now. So if there's a sense of you having them as a captive audience, whether digitally or otherwise, and you share things that empowers them, that inspires them to take that and translate to some other part of their life, that's the best that we can do. Because like, people aren't going to follow you on your trip to the grocery store and playing with your kids and taking your dog for a while. I mean, we're not going to put our whole life out there, but we'd hope that they could take some principles from here to there.
Well, and I think like social media is a point of interest, but like the real work that I do happens like within my community. It happens within the organization I work for, Sparks Day. It happens in like the actual conversations with humans. It's real hard to have a grounded conversation with like thousands and thousands of people. So, what I continue to try to do is put out content that promotes core messages so that people might be interested to work more with me. It's hard.
It is hard. And it's really hard. This is a hard business to break into. And there's a lot of loud voices. And for people that are new to it, you just don't know where to go. So you try to go everywhere, or you find one person who maybe on the front end might serve you well, but then moving forward, maybe that's not who you want to emulate and who you want to be.
Right.
It's important that we have that diversity of thought. And it's really important for us, I think, people who've been doing it for a long time, to be in the position to draw to us the people that fill us up as we're trying to help them grow.
Yeah. I suppose what it, like all of the blah, blah, blah that I just said really comes down to, like, I would like to highlight that the important piece for your business and your growth is consistency of, I hate to say messaging because it's such a marketing word, but it's consistency of your work. And sometimes you don't know what that is in the beginning. So it can just be like the joy that you receive from teaching it, or the way you feel when you do it, and just starting there and then building from there, because people do want to be with people who they feel like they could have a relationship with, like that they align on values or they align on experiences. And, when there's the fame aspect, it's almost like they're untouchable. And that is, I think that one of the things that I try to do, even though I have my boundaries, is I try not to put like too much of a gatekeeper situation there, because that piece it's the work that is more important to me.
Yeah.
I'm shifting away from the word fame and just kind of settling with inspiration. You know, like I think that's, I mean, you're inspiring, Misty. You're inspiring, Jen. Like those, like it's the fame is one thing, but the fact that inspires someone to X, Y, or Z, I think that's the piece, right? Like we're not out here trying to achieve fame, but we'd hope that through the consistency of our character and by being authentic to ourselves, that we inspire the next.
Well, so like I want to ask Misty a question on this end, because Misty's got character for days and she's not afraid to show it. And it's one of the many reasons we love her. I wonder if there's ever been a time for you where like you've said something that's hit, whether it's in person or online, it's been really impactful. But you maybe realized that like you weren't ready for that impact, or you didn't have what you needed to back it up, whether it was like a business funnel to get people into like, oh, I got to capture this attention, or just like, I don't know what that was. It was a fluke. I believe it. I said it. It came out, but I don't know where to go with it next. Yeah. Did that ever happen?
You know, it does happen. Like,
oh, we lost your audio.
My audio?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. It used to kind of terrify me. So I would just say, oh, that doesn't feel good. I'd drop it and like run, like leave it. It's gone. To torch it. I don't want to deal with it anymore. But I feel like now I'm in a place where when these things happen, it's, I don't know if you want to call it like the universe just tapping me and just vomiting it out of my mouth or what, but that's usually something, if it makes me that uncomfortable, but it resonates well, but feels uncomfortable at the same time, that is something that I need to sit on it and process and visit and revisit. Maybe I write it down and maybe I ruminate in different ways over it. Maybe I think about it while I'm moving, but there's something that I'm supposed to get out of that. It's supposed to lead me somewhere. Mm-hmm. The problem is when it comes and it's so unexpected that it rocks me and I can't process it. I can't move. And that happens too, because that's scary. I pride myself on having words for everything. And sometimes I just can't. I've been going through a lot lately personally. And so I've been having a lot of these moments that have just been really just the mirror in front of my face. And they come out at random times. And then I have to say, how do I show up for that? What does that really, and how does that influence how I move forward? So it's a growth period, and it's always growth, I guess. But, you know, there are times when you're more fallow and other times where you're really producing. And honoring those periods is what's becoming most important to me. Did I answer that question at all?
Yeah. And I think the reason why I wanted to ask it is that, like, just what we were talking about earlier, like it's when someone has so much to share that's succinct, and when it comes out, like, you know, just a fire, there's also this other piece, whether it's the mirror or, you know, not unexpected or whatever, that's part of the process of determining like who you're becoming in the role that you have and how you're claiming that responsibility and rolling with those things that are coming. And I think me too. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask it. But I think it's important to hear that it isn't about, again, like we're just coming back to the imperfection aspect of it, but it's like, it doesn't happen in a perfect sequence of events where, you know, like on Monday, I'm going to say something that's going to rock the world. And then on Tuesday, I'll, you know, do X, Y, Z or what have you. It's something that you're consistent. It's an ongoing thing that happens when you keep showing up. Right.
Yeah. And sometimes the best way you can show up is to disappear. For me personally, I mean, for me, You know when I'm ruminating on something when you don't see me on social media.
Mhm.
Period. It's because I really have to find my balance and figure out then, whatever that impetus was, where it's going to take me, how I need to manage that. And so, I'm in this period where I have to listen.
Yes.
And I'll plug along and not listen for a long time. And then first the messages are coming like it's little drips, and then it's acorns, and then it's like bee stings. And, then I have to just,
And it's wrenches. Hey.
Yes, exactly. And that's being authentic to myself, honoring myself, which is really hard to do when you're so used to putting it out there and doing for others. I thought you'd get that. Yeah.
Yes.
So therapy happens on Thursdays at 9? Is that what's happening?
Yes. It's 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
9 Central, yes. Thank you.
Yes.
What are we
and it's Wednesday, for the record, too.
Is it Wednesday? Oh.
Is it?
This is the week that does not exist, though, between Christmas and New Year's, or
True.
whenever winter break is happening. It's like, there is work happening, but I don't.
I just really thought it was Thursday.
Me too.
World. For sure.
There you go. That's my contribution to the conversation. Just for the record.
Marjorie, keeping us grounded.
I know. Honestly.
I miss crap. I'm on the wrong. Did I miss? What happened?
I know. Everyone's laughing. That was authentic, by the way, which is how you know. Like, you can't see because I got a little bit of cover up, but my face is purple because I'm blushing.
Jenna, I said this yesterday when you weren't in the room, and I guess as we close, because it's whatever, our support, amplify, connect line that you use in our very first conversation that I turned around and asked you if I could use for my campaign, that literally won a campaign. It was so central to every message that went as it knocked on every door.
Yeah.
It really was. When everyone was making up their campaign promises of everything from defunding the police to saving the world, and they asked me, what am I going to do? And I said, I'm simply going to support, amplify, and connect, because there's a lot of people doing great work out there and people don't know they exist. And that was really all I said. And it started with these conversations here. So as we traverse through this world and move from just Pilates to more than Pilates to everything we said in the last 85 minutes, for me, a springboard for that was those 3 words, like support, amplify, and connect. So thank you, a million thank yous, a public thank you for that piece.
You're so welcome. I think that I was simply a messenger. And what I love about those words is I felt such a sense of, like, when I saw them in your campaign, you didn't tell me, I think you asked, but I didn't, we've had conversations, you asked to use it on different things. And I was like, yeah, I mean, they're not, I don't own them. Yes. Right. And I saw them in your campaign and I was just like, I just had this yes sense. And I think what they've become is a part of and I'll include Misty on this, our core values.
Yes.
And that's what I love about them. They keep fueling me in different ways. I'm overjoyed at the way they've helped you move into a position of leadership and literal advocacy. Yeah. I'm proud of you. I don't say that to anybody because I don't like that. I'm proud of you. You're so, but as a friend, I have pride with you for the work that you've done and the fact that I could be a really tiny part of it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think when I won, we all won. in many ways, right? So I mean, so I received that. Misty, you know, just I have so much love for both of you guys, but that's this is this is good. This is life-giving as always. So
Community.
Mhm.
This is what community is. It's not the neighborhood watch. It's not like the lady up the street that's like bitching at you because you're cutting your grass at 6 a.m. This is what community is.
Yep. Yes.
Thank you guys. I'm really happy that I got to make it in.
What a great, great conversation.
Yes. Such a good Thursday.
Neat.
That's actually Wednesday.
Now I got to rearrange some things.
Oh, you're trying to trick me. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks everybody who tuned in.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's a bunch of comments here. Oh, Allie Green. I wish we could have got her in.
Dr. Tammy.
Yes, and Shanti was in here earlier.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right,
and Robin
my friends.
Renee, Coach Robin, I saw too.
Yes,
so good.
In the first shot. Okay, so you guys can use this on your own masterclass, sell it as part of your mentorship programs, and just have people refer to this live and just be like, watch this before you buy anything from me and see if you qualify. Thanks.
Actually, I might want to rip the audio so I can throw it up on Jay-Z, and then we'll do it as a new year. So
please do. That. Yeah, please.
Audio, but if he wants to offer masterclass on that, I'll do it.
Yes.
Join our new masterclass. Drop a DM that says Fire 3 in the comments, and we'll send you a thing for free. Drop a comment that says free therapy, and we'll be back next week with our special mastermind.
Whichever
tired.
Good luck,
Martin. Did you see the way Martin was like? You all don't know my schedule in January. There will be no more mastermind.
No.
Your therapy.
No. Yes.
Yes.
But, all right.
All right, party people. Thank you so much. Much love. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.